This month was really strong, but the thing that really stuck out was TikTok sales. This is completely new to my business. Hey, welcome to the new version of the Beyond the Booster vlog, where I'm going to break down the running the business costs through month. So today we're looking at April. And if I had to sum up April in one sentence, it would probably be surprisingly pleasant. I was not expecting the end of the tax year to produce really good results. As I mentioned, the biggest positive was TikTok sales, and probably the biggest challenge is probably my own expectation and sometimes the stress that wears you down. Things like this, where I look at the results, is actually quite motivating for me. So stick with me. We'll get into the TikTok, the reasons why, some of the analytics, but first we'll break down the sales at a high level. So looking at the analytics, like this month, we've had a total sales revenue of £2,761.53. That's over 67 orders that I've fulfilled, with an average order cost of £37.81. So in comparison, like we are up to this, in comparison to this time last year, we're up 2,700% in comparison to April last year, which is absolutely crazy. In terms of orders fulfilled, again, up 570%. Let me just caveat that obviously last year I'd only just set up the website and obviously the integrations there. So these numbers, these percents will seem ridiculous. That's just because we've had a great year in terms of where the business has gone. But it's surprising to look back, and this is where I say sometimes the challenges for me is to realize how far you've come, because if you're in it daily, it can weigh you down and you don't really see these transformations as much as you'd want to. So this is really good for me and hopefully quite insightful for you if you're planning to do something like me. So in terms of looking at sessions that my website has had, not obviously including anything from like TikTok or eBay, because I can't really track those, I've had 561 sessions, which is a 251% increase from this time last year, which is great, because one of the big goals long term for me is for my primary source of revenue to be my Shopify store. Now, I do lean on the footfall of eBay and TikTok and other platforms for sales, because you pay you pay the fee to essentially get their footfall, and that is a very positive thing that I think is worth the percent. And usually I bake in the extra costs into my prices on there. So if you're ever shopping on me on eBay, TikTok, always go to the site, because you'll just literally get it about 10% cheaper than what's on the TikTok or eBay stores. Yeah, just to drive it home. So sessions this time last year, I had 160 in April and 561, as I mentioned, this year in April, which is really cool. It's really good to see. Nice to know that things are getting out there, because I don't pay for any ads yet. I don't obviously promote that anywhere outside just doing good prices, good deals, and, building on that service and hopefully getting returning customers. So my cost of acquiring a customer right now is really, really low, because I actually don't do any of that. Now, conversion rates of them customers, I'm sitting at about a 1.42%, which obviously to the average Joe, that's, 1 in 100 people, or 1.5. Hopefully you're not that 0.5 of a person that will come to the store and buy something, which is, good for me. It's up 128%. Now, obviously, I've found that is starting to do more competitive pricing, kind of appreciate that, just because I get certain bits of stock, it's not always priced because I need to make the sale at the highest possible price, because I've only got lower allocation than other people. It's better to have that volumes and hopefully just give great deals to people. One of the weirder statistics is that the United States is the most sessions that I've had by location, which is quite surprising, because obviously I don't ship internationally through my store, but it is a good indicator that is something maybe I should cater to moving forward. Of these sessions, we've got 302 that are mobile devices, 256 that are on desktops, 3 on other, which may be iPod Nano, I don't know. Then you've got your tablets at 0, which is down 100%. But outside of all that, It's great. I think one thing I need to focus on is more the mobile application of the website, how you navigate and stuff, maybe make that a bit more optimized for people, because I definitely do have a bit of a bias because I build the website on a PC. Sometimes I do forget to kind of just check out what it looks like on a mobile device. The sessions by landing page, and this one's actually quite an interesting one because it's like the power of blogs. The idea of me creating blogs is in order to see me rank higher. So when you say, how do I post a trading card? I'm trying to build blogs to rank higher on these Google platforms, to obviously hopefully let you click into the store, you read it through, and you kind of go, oh, this guy also sells, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever you need. And that will also potentially help convert people into that. I also link in my socials. I get like affiliate links on there just to guide people to help there and hopefully create a bit more passive income. Because if you go and buy something from Amazon that, I've linked and you buy it through that link, I get commission on that. So there is other elements to that, but it's surprising because the most one outside of my homepage is 95 sessions on the how to post trading cards on the cheap blog, which is really interesting. Strixhaven, again, we had a big release this month and that's done really well just across the board in terms of sales. And some Union Arena, I had a lot of sales for the Japanese My Hero Academia set. So total sales by like referrer, so it's kind of like where you get them from. So that'll be like, Google, Instagram, things like that. I found Google's had quite a few increases in engagement, so that's probably good because it means I'm pricing things effectively, adding things from an SEO perspective better. So Google's showing me a bit higher, but I've got £256 worth of sales through Google promoting that. And again, these aren't paid promotions. These are just based on obviously what they're showing to the user. And the remaining kind of 2.3 are obviously from my just standard pricing and them finding me on Google, which is great. It means I'm showing quite high, or at least pricing effectively enough to pull people away from other shops. So of that profit of the 2,677.94 pence, the costs of goods sold were £1,882.49, leaving a gross profit of around £740.95, which is really good because what I'm trying to do is just reinvest that, also create traction. So while I could be making more by raising prices, what I'm trying to do right now is ensure that I remain competitive and I'm basically price matching against everyone on the market to ensure that people and my brand gets out there, because it's essentially free marketing and people will then build up that trust with me because they're more willing to take a chance on something that they will get a bit of a bargain on. I find, it's quite surprising how much people will hand over like £316 for a collector booster box just because it's £10 cheaper than somewhere that's, really well established. Obviously for me, that's great. I know I'm trustworthy, but, it's a good sign of what's working and what hasn't worked in the past, whereas I would have previously listed a collector booster box at, £340 to really squeeze out the extra £15, but it wouldn't have sold for 6 months. So I'd rather take that profit on that and make that sale. And obviously, hopefully next time that person will then look to see, oh, hopefully they've got another collector booster box at a fair price again, and they'll snap that up. And I will, that's the name of the game. All this money is just going back into the business and cycling. So it's nice. It's really nice to see because, as I mentioned, it is really hard to feel that it is making money at times because all you see is costs coming in, and sometimes you have to give a lot of your personal money to it. So yeah. So of that £2,700 that I mentioned, when we're breaking it down, the online store, we've made £1,200 worth of them sales, which is up 7.1k from last year, which is a crazy percent, even though I know it's a bit misleading because the website was only really up and running for a month by this point. eBay produced £765 worth of that revenue. TikTok, £606, which is fantastic because this is a new market that I've really struggled to tap into, and it's been very good. The only downside is with TikTok, you have to wait for the delivery date plus 15 days in order to get paid out, which is a bit of a nuisance when obviously you're in a position like I am where you're starting out a business. That for me is quite frustrating because you're kind of like, it's on hold for a very long time, especially when across 15 days I might have 1 or 2 releases that I need to pay for invoice wise. But the payoff for having that market versus not having that market, you take £600. Shop, which is linked into my online store, brought in £160. That was kind of with the collector booster boxes for the Strixhaven. That's done really well as other avenues like that. But it's really, really promising to see where the online store is coming from, but also this growth that the website keeps having in the business. So what went well for me? I think the big highlight is TikTok. I really struggled to build this in, and I think what I noticed with TikTok, less is more. I was showing too many items. Graded cards didn't perform well on there, but what it did was it cluttered up my TikTok store, and people were not seeing kind of the booster packs, the booster boxes, commander boxes, and so on and so forth, the sealed product. And as I removed them from my the graded cards, the sealed products just kind of shot up massively. And that was the most surprisingly pleasant thing for me to see. So if you are starting on TikTok shop, you obviously have a limitation of 100 products. Focus on doing your best products that people will buy. And, TikTok does give you insights on that, but I just found like, find what your brand is, find what you're trying to sell, and just give them options. Don't try and give them too much at once, because at some point soon, TikTok and people are coming back to my store. I get quite a few recurring customers from there, and that's because they kind of give vouchers. So with TikTok, you will get, by achieving like list 5 products as an example, and they'll give you and your customers like £60 worth of vouchers, and they'll take £4 or £5 off your order. And the thing that I found was confusing, by the way, because when you get your order and you get your order breakdown, it looks like you've listed it for the wrong price, but actually TikTok takes that off, that free voucher off there, and then they reimburse you with it later down the line after you've delivered and been reimbursed for the initial, let's say 70% of the order. They'll give you that remaining 30% through them. They'll pay for it on behalf of the customer. And I find that quite useful because it's literally a free incentive. It's a free discount, and you don't really get anything negative on that, especially if you price up. So I think TikTok take 9%. I just raise my prices by 9%. So I'm basically getting the same profit as I would be on the website, but they're probably getting like a competitive price, but a reassurance on the TikTok side. They know they've got kind of buyer protection, that they're buying through the platforms. Of course, they always have consumer rights, but it feels a bit more reassuring when you're doing it through eBay and TikTok with some people you don't know, like myself if you're a new customer. Totally understand that. I've been there before. Win 2 was having the ability to kind of look back and have a bit of an ego death with my pricing. As I mentioned, pricing for the Strixhaven release, I just said, well, do I want these to sell? Do I want to give good service to people? Okay, if I'm making £3 or £4 less on this product, but I'm selling more product, I'm making money. Rather than holding it for 6 months waiting for the price to go up to something I'm stubbornly waiting for, and that is not cycling back into the business as profit. And I think that's probably why my profit margins are smaller, but the amount of profit I've made over the month volume-wise is higher. So what was tough? I think mentally it's been quite a tough month or a couple of months with Christmas and everything like that, because a lot of my personal finances intermingle with increasing and invoices for my stuff. So I do have this really big balance I'm playing. So it's been quite mentally heavy for me in terms of saving for a wedding and everything like that I'm doing on my personal life, as well as managing Eddie's Emporium. So that's been quite mentally heavy and demotivating for me. And probably the second challenge for that is, finding that motivation and trying to create content and engagement with it. The hardest part for me is wanting, this is my dream, and I love every second that I do doing it as Emporium. But some points when you are feeling really low and you kind of don't want to get up and do anything, and you can't afford certain things, it really does grate down on you, especially if you're kind of locked away constantly and you get asked to do things. So staying motivated is definitely one of the hardest things that you do in these sort of things, but it's a lot of commitment. But of course, I'm figuring that out, and I don't think that should ever deter you from doing something like this, because it's genuinely gives me so much life. It's the most freeing feeling I have, being able to do this and talk about this with you, because I get to literally live my dream. So, it's not a negative. It's just some things do have prices, and you need to be ready to have that compromise with yourself. The big lesson this month, I think, that I'm probably going to reflect back on is patience. Patience is a virtue. When I'm looking back a year ago at these analytics, it's really showcasing how far I and Eddie's Emporiums came, and I'm very proud of that, because it can feel that you're not going fast enough a lot, especially in a world where we've got a lot of quick social media. Everything's updated in a moment. There is a crazy amount of comparison. I do it so much when it comes to the business and how I want the business to perform, getting angry with allocations and other things like that, because it is progressive and you only what you want it now, and I'm such a sucker for that impulsive feeling. That for me it's nice to be able to do this, because looking back I kind of go, wow, like it's happening. It's to say that I've got an extra £700 to put into the business, or I have put into the business and cycled that in for stock to snowball the next month, the month after, and I'm seeing month on month grow, like 2,700% from this time last year, whatever the figure was. It is, I'd have bit your hand off if you were to say that. I think I set out initially this time last year, April, said £5,000 worth of sales in that year, and I think I went over 16,000. So I 3x'd it, over 3x'd it, and I think that says a lot for the success and the trust that you as buyers put into me, viewers, supporters. So I appreciate that a lot. So looking into the next month, I think the thing that I'm going to focus in on is trying to understand the TikTok market more. I'm very keen on getting the book by Pat Flynn. You'll probably know him as Deep Pocket Monster, creating superfans. I really want to explore my understanding of kind of creating content and creating content tailored to people. Hence why I've started to look at the monthly review to be just business related, because you're not trying to look for business and also have to have a TCG update. You might want one and not the other. So I'm looking to start creating content a bit more concise, to the point, to a point, to ask a question. But hopefully the transparency is also there to give you a bit of updates. But I know this is a work in progress, because I'm not a social media guru. But I want to be able to make sure that I share this journey in the right way and create a narrative for you to be able to understand and follow. So stick with me. I'm sure if I look back again a year ago today, it was probably a lot more nerve-wracking to do something like this, and I certainly would not have a Scooby in how to present it. So yeah, thank you for your patience. So that's it. This is April's Beyond the Booster. I'm Eddie, owner of Eddie's Emporium, signing out. But if you do have any questions, let me know. Is there anything that kind of stood out to you that I showed analytics wise? Because there's quite a few that I think I'll be looking into and taking back a bit more, or something that maybe I've missed that you kind of want to see me add in to the next scene. Like, is there an analytics that maybe I've got on a report or a live view that I've not covered? That would help me help you. But anyway, I'll catch you later. Hopefully you're having a lovely week. Ciao.